Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something today, and I want you to hear me real good. Sometimes the person who loves you the most will ignore you the most. Now, I know that don't sound right. It don't feel good, but there's truth in that tension. Let me break it down for you. Let me tell you something that might just shift the way you see love. A lot of folks think love always shows up loud, that it's supposed to be in your face all the time. Texts in the morning, calls at night, somebody always checking in, always around. And when that ain't happening, you start to think they must not care about me. They must be done. But let me help you see something today. Love don't always look like attention. See, we live in a world where people got this idea that if someone loves you, they're supposed to constantly pour into you nonstop, every day, no breaks. But real love, deep love, sometimes it's quiet. It ain't always front and center. The one who loves you a lot might not always be the one blowing up your phone. They might not be the one talking every second. And you start to feel like they're ignoring you. But that's not always what's going on. Let me break it down. Some people, the ones who love with everything they got, they love so hard they don't even know how to show it right all the time. They're so afraid of messing it up that they pull back. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They're in their head overthinking every little thing. Did I say too much? Am I being too needy? What if I ruin this? That silence you hear, that space they give you, that ain't apathy. That's fear. That's somebody trying to handle love like it's a live wire. And let me tell you something else. Some folks didn't grow up seeing healthy love. They never saw two people communicate honestly and openly. All they know is survival. They didn't get affection growing up. They got conditions. They got do better and be quiet. So now when they love somebody, they freeze up, they retreat. They don't know how to show up for you the way you want, but they're trying in the way they know. And that can be real confusing. Cause you sitting there thinking, if you love me, why don't you talk to me? And they over there thinking, if I talk, I might mess it up. Two people speaking different languages, both full of love, both scared to lose each other. But listen to me. Don't go thinking that silence always means absence. Don't confuse quiet with coldness. Some people are just wired different. Some people love better in their actions than in their words. You might not hear I love you all day long, but they make sure your car's got gas. They don't text much, but they show up when it counts. And that's love too. I ain't saying you should accept being ignored, no. I ain't saying settle for crumbs when you need a meal. What I'm saying is understand the heart behind the silence. Look deeper than the surface. Because love that's loud is easy to spot. But love that's quiet, that's the one you gotta feel. You ever had somebody love you so much they didn't want to bother you with their problems? They going through hell, but they keep it to themselves because they don't want to weigh you down. That's love. Misguided sometimes, but still love. It's not the healthiest way to love, but it's real. And sometimes the only way they know how. Now that don't mean you stay in the dark. That don't mean you ignore your needs. You still gotta communicate. You still gotta say, look, I need more than silence. But do it with compassion, with understanding. Because maybe, just maybe, that person who's ignoring you isn't pulling away. Maybe they're gathering the strength to love you the way you deserve. Maybe they're fighting battles you can't see, and silence is their way of coping. Love is messy, y'all. It ain't always pretty. It's not always a fairy tale with violins and roses and candlelight dinners. Sometimes it's two people trying not to drown in their own fears, trying to figure out how to hold on without letting go of themselves. So if you feel like someone's ignoring you, ask yourself, do they love me, or are they just scared? Or are they emotionally absent or emotionally overwhelmed? Because there's a big difference. And if you're the one who loves someone deeply and you find yourself pulling back, say something. Even if it's hard, even if it's ugly, say I love you, but I don't always know how to show it. That kind of honesty can break down walls silence built. I'm just telling you, love don't always show up loud. Sometimes it sits in the back quietly praying for you. Sometimes it watches from a distance hoping you're okay. It might not always call, but it never forgets you. And if you can recognize that kind of love, if you can hold space for it and still protect your own peace, then you're halfway to something real. So don't count someone out just because they love you different. Learn their language and teach them yours. Because when love is real, even in silence, it still speaks. That's all I gotta say about that. Now let me tell you something that most people don't understand until they've been through it. Real love can be terrifying. I'm talking about that deep soul level kind of love. The kind that makes you feel seen, vulnerable, exposed. The kind that don't just knock on your door, it kicks it in and says, I'm here, you matter, you're everything. That kind of love, it don't always make people step closer. Sometimes it makes them pull away. See, fear can make people do some strange things. And one of those things is this right here. They fall for you, they love you so deep, so hard, that they don't know what to do with it. So instead of staying near, they distance themselves. Not because they don't love you, but because they do. Now I know that sounds backward. You thinking how you gonna love me and still run from me? But I'm telling you, it happens every day. You ever heard somebody say this is too good to be true? That's fear talking. That's somebody who's lived through pain, through disappointment, through people walking out on it. So when they finally get someone who loves them, respects them, sees them, they panic. Because love like that feels risky. See, when you don't care about somebody, you got nothing to lose. But when you love somebody, now it's different. Now you're afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of getting hurt, afraid of not being enough. And that fear, it don't always come with an announcement. It creeps in quiet like a shadow. And before you know it, that person you were laughing with, talking to every night, they start backing up. They stop answering quick. They get cold. And you're left there thinking, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. They got scared. See, everybody talks about wanting real love, but not everybody is ready for it. Real love don't just bring joy, it brings pressure. It brings responsibility. It brings a mirror right up to your soul and says, you sure you ready for this? And when folks look into that mirror and see all their flaws, all their insecurities, all the stuff they ain't healed from yet, they run. Now that don't mean they bad people, don't mean they never cared. It means they're human. It means they might still be carrying old wounds. Maybe they were betrayed. Maybe they were made to feel like they didn't matter. Maybe the last time they loved somebody, it left them shattered. So when they finally feel something real again, their mind goes, uh-oh, here we go again. Better get out before I get hurt. And look, that ain't fair to you. I'm not here to tell you to wait around forever for somebody who won't fight for you. But I am here to help you understand. Fear is powerful. And when love walks in the room, fear sometimes tries to push it right back out. So if you find yourself being ignored by somebody who you know loves you, and I mean really know in your spirit, not just guessing, don't take it personal right away. Look at the whole picture. Ask yourself, are they avoiding me or are they avoiding the risk of loving me? Because that's a whole different thing. Sometimes people will ignore you because they don't know how to tell you they're scared. They don't want to show weakness. They don't want to look like they don't have it together. So instead of being honest, they get quiet. They ghost. They distract themselves. But deep down, their heart is still attached. They're still checking on you from a distance, still hoping you're okay, still loving you silently. That's why communication is everything. You gotta create space where people feel safe to be vulnerable. A place where somebody can say, I love you, but I'm scared, without you flipping out or shutting down. And you gotta be strong enough to hear that without letting it tear you apart. Because here's the truth. Love will always come with fear. You will never love somebody deeply and not be scared. Scared of losing them. Scared of not being enough. Scared of being hurt. That fear don't mean you're weak. It means you're invested. It means you can. But the trick is this. You can't let fear make your decisions. You can't let fear be louder than love. And you can't let fear rob you of the one thing your heart's been waiting for. See, some people miss out on the best love of their life not because they didn't love back, but because they let fear win. So if you're the one loving someone who's pulling away, take a step back and ask, is this person running from me or from what loving me might demand of them? And if you're the one doing the pulling away, I need you to get honest with yourself. Are you scared of them? Or are you scared of being seen for real this time? Scared of being known and maybe not being enough? Let me tell you, love is worth the risk every single time. Yeah, it might hurt. Yeah, it might not work out. But living in fear, staying in a place where you push away the very thing you prayed for, that's no way to live. Don't let fear make you ignore somebody who only wants to love you. And don't let somebody's fear convince you that you're unworthy of love. Love is scary, but it's still the most beautiful thing we get to feel on this earth. Now listen, I need you to lean in on this one because it's something a lot of people misunderstand. When somebody goes quiet on you, when they start pulling back and not saying much, your first thought is they don't love me anymore. You feel that knot in your chest, that confusion, that sadness, and you start building stories in your head. They're done with me. They've moved on. But let me tell you something, silence doesn't always mean they've stopped loving you. Sometimes silence is the sound of someone fighting a battle they don't know how to talk about. See, we're so quick to connect silence with disinterest. Like if they ain't calling or texting or showing up, then they must be over it. But that's not always the case. Sometimes that silence is them trying to protect you from the storm they're in. You ever been going through so much mess in your own life that you didn't even know how to say it out loud? You didn't know how to pick up the phone and tell somebody what you were feeling because the pain didn't even make sense to you yet. That's what I'm talking about. The one who loves you a lot might go quiet on you. Not because they're gone, but because they're struggling. They might be wrestling with their own demons, trying to hold themselves together while pretending like everything's fine. And in that struggle, they don't want to bring you down with them. They don't want to be a burden, so they say nothing. They disappear into themselves. Not because they stop caring, but because they care so much they'd rather suffer alone than let you carry their weight. Now I know that hurts. I know it's frustrating. You're sitting there wondering what you did wrong, wondering why the vibe changed, why the calls stopped, why the good morning text turned into silence. And all that wondering starts turning into doubt. You start questioning the whole relationship. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the problem ain't you. Sometimes the one you love is in so much pain they don't even have the words for it. You ever heard the phrase, hurt people hurt people? That's real. But here's another truth. Hurt people also hide from people, especially the ones they love. Because they think if I let you see all this brokenness, you won't love me the same. So instead of opening up, they shut down. They go radio silent. But it's not because the love is gone, it's because they're drowning. And the crazy part, sometimes they love you so much they don't want you to see them like that. Ain't that something? They value how you see them. They don't want you to witness them weak, lost, crying, struggling. They want to be your rock, your support, your peace. And when they can't be that, they back away. Not to hurt you, but to avoid hurting you with their hurt. Let me give it to you like this. Imagine someone carrying a backpack full of bricks. They walk around every day with that weight on their back, not saying a word, and then one day you come into their life. You light, you joy, you peace. And they don't want to throw their bricks on you. They don't want to drag you into their mess. So instead of asking for help, instead of letting you in, they distance themselves. Because in their mind, that's love. Love means protecting you from their pain, even if that means being alone in it. Now, I ain't saying it's right. I ain't saying it's healthy, but I'm telling you it's real. That silence you hear. Sometimes it's not apathy. It's shame. It's depression. It's anxiety. It's fear. It's someone sitting in a dark place thinking, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess you up. So they isolate. They go into survival mode. And in doing so, they think they're doing you a favor. That's why compassion is so powerful. That's why patience is key. Because if you really love somebody, you got to understand their silence ain't always about you. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give is simply being there. Not pressing, not demanding, just letting them know, hey, I see you. I'm still here. I care, even in the silence. But let me be clear, that don't mean you sacrifice your peace. That don't mean you wait around forever, being treated like an afterthought. No, you gotta protect your heart too. You can have empathy and boundaries at the same time. You can say, I understand you're going through something, but I still deserve respect. I still need communication. That's healthy love. Because listen, silence can be a place of healing or a place of hiding. And only that person can decide which one it's going to be. But if they truly love you, they'll find their way back. They'll come out of that silence, not because you demanded it, but because they realize you're worth showing up for, even when it's hard. See, love is not just about showing up when it's easy. Love is showing up when it's hard. Love is being honest when it's uncomfortable. Love is saying, I'm not okay right now, but I still care. That kind of love takes maturity. It takes growth, and not everybody's there yet. But if you're lucky enough to be loved by someone who's just going through something, someone who's silent but not absent in spirit, give them space to come around. And if you're the one going through it, let me tell you this. Don't suffer in silence thinking it's noble. Don't push people away thinking it's protection. Let the people who love you, because love ain't just for the good days. It's for the storms too. Now let's talk about something that don't get said enough. Love comes with pressure. And I don't mean the kind of pressure that breaks you. I'm talking about the pressure that changes you, that makes you sit up straighter, that makes you want to be better, that makes you question, am I even worthy of this kind of love? See, when somebody really loves you, I mean truly deeply, unapologetically loves you, it holds a mirror up to everything inside you that ain't been healed yet, that ain't been faced yet. That kind of love, it don't just make you feel good, it makes you feel seen. And being seen like that, man, that can be scary. Now I want you to think about this. When you care about someone so much, you start worrying. What if I disappoint them? What if I ain't enough for them? What if they wake up one day and see all the mess I've been trying to hide and decide to walk away? That pressure of living up to someone else's love, that pressure of being good enough, it gets heavy. Especially when you already got doubts about yourself. And that's where a lot of that ignoring comes from. It don't always come from a place of arrogance or indifference. It comes from insecurity. It comes from fear. You got somebody who's looking at you like you're everything, and they're sitting there thinking, how can I be what they need when I'm still trying to fix me? So instead of stepping closer, they step back, they pull away. Not because they don't love you, but because they love you so much they don't want to mess it up. Let me tell you something. Loving someone doesn't automatically mean you know how to handle being loved back. Some people have never experienced real, honest, healthy love before. They've only ever known conditional love. Love that said, you're good if you do this, I'll love you when you change. So when they finally get that unconditional love, that pure love, that you don't have to perform kind of love, it confuses them. It pressures them. It makes them think, what's the catch? That kind of love can feel like a spotlight. Suddenly everything they've been hiding, their mistakes, their pain, their flaws, it's all exposed. And it's not because you're judging them. It's because they're judging themselves. They start to think you deserve better, you could do better, and instead of talking about those feelings, instead of opening up, they go quiet. They start to avoid you. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they care too much to admit they're scared. They can't live up to your love. And that's a hard place to be in for both sides. You're on one side just loving this person the best way you know how. You're trying to show up for them, trying to be consistent, trying to offer peace in a world full of chaos. And they're over there building up walls, keeping distance, hiding behind silence. And that silence feels like rejection. It feels like punishment. But really it's fear. Fear that says, I'm not ready. I'm not enough. I don't want to let you down. But listen, pressure doesn't always have to break something. Sometimes pressure builds something strong. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Growth happens under pressure. And if the love is real, if it's rooted in truth and not fantasy, both people can learn how to navigate that pressure together. But that means you gotta be honest about what you're feeling. You can't heal what you hide. You can't grow in silence. Now I know some folks will say, well, if they loved me, they'd try harder. And I get that. I hear you. But I want you to also understand some people are trying. It just don't look the way you expect it to. Their trying might be them going to therapy. Might be them finally admitting to themselves that they got stuff to work on. Might be them taking time to figure out how to communicate better. It might even be them stepping back because they don't want to keep hurting you while they're still learning how to love properly. And if you're the one feeling that pressure, if you're the one pulling away because you think you're not enough, let me tell you something straight. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. Nobody's asking you to have it all figured out. The people who love you, they just want you to try. They just want you to show up, to communicate, to say, I'm struggling, but I'm here. Because love don't require perfection, it requires presence. It requires vulnerability. It requires growth. And yeah, that growth comes with pressure, but it's pressure with purpose. It's pressure that stretches you into becoming the version of yourself you already are underneath all that fear and doubt. So don't run from the person who loves you just because you feel like you're not good enough. Don't let that pressure make you retreat into silence. Let it push you to rise up. Let it motivate you to be better. Not because you're not enough, but because you want to give the best version of yourself to someone who sees your worth. And if you're on the other side loving someone who's struggling under that pressure, be patient, but be wise. Be supportive, but don't lose yourself in the process. Love them, but love yourself enough to not shrink while you wait. Because love can't thrive in silence. It can't grow in fear. It needs honesty. It needs space to breathe. And most of all, it needs two people willing to face that pressure together, instead of letting it pull them apart. Let me break something down that a lot of people get confused about. Sometimes when somebody is ignoring you, it ain't got nothing to do with how they feel about you. It's about what's going on inside of them. See, people assume that love always shows up loud. They think it's all about flowers, calls, attention, affection. But sometimes the one who loves you the most is the quietest one in the room. Sometimes love ain't loud, it's complicated, especially when someone is in conflict with themselves. Now let me explain what I mean. When you love somebody deeply, but you haven't healed from your past, it creates friction. It creates this war inside. You're pulled in two directions. One part of you wants to run toward love, toward peace, toward connection. But the other part, that part is scared. That part remembers the pain, the betrayal, the abandonment. That part says, don't get too close. Don't trust this. Protect yourself. So what happens? You freeze. You go quiet. You start acting distant. Not because your heart's not in it, but because your mind is fighting it. I've seen people lose the best thing that ever happened to them, just because they couldn't make peace with themselves. Not because the love wasn't real, not because they didn't care, but because the war inside them was louder than the voice telling them to stay. And that's what I'm talking about right here. That inner conflict, that confusion, that fear that shows up in the form of silence. See, it's hard to show up for someone else when you can't even show up for yourself. It's hard to pour into someone else when your own cup's been dry for years. And when love comes in, real love, the kind that don't demand perfection, the kind that just wants to be, it throws people off. They don't know how to receive it. They don't trust it. So they pull away. They back up. They ignore the very person they pray in to keep. Now I know if you're on the receiving end of that, it hurts. It feels personal. It feels like rejection. But more often than not, that distance, that silence, it's not about you. It's about them trying to figure out how to stop running from themselves long enough to love somebody else right. Let me tell you, self-conflict is a beast. You could be the most beautiful thing in someone's life and they'll still feel unworthy. You could show up every day full of love and patience and they'll still feel like they're failing you. Because deep down they're still battling voices that tell them they ain't enough, that they're broken, that they'll mess this up just like everything else. And instead of fighting with you, they start fighting against the relationship. And you gotta understand, silence is a symptom. It's a symptom of someone who hasn't yet figured out how to balance love and fear in the same heart. They're trying to love you with a heart that's still healing, trying to build something new on a foundation that's still cracked. And until they fix that, they're always going to struggle to show up for you consistently. Now, I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm not saying you just wait around and accept being ignored. No, love still requires effort, still requires presence. Well, what I am saying is, don't always assume the worst. Sometimes it ain't about you. Sometimes it's about them being lost in their own head, battling their own past, trying to find the courage to believe in something good. And here's the truth. You can't fight that battle for them. You can't go inside their head and change the story they've been telling themselves for years. But you can recognize when someone's struggling. You can choose to offer grace, or you can choose to walk away in peace if the silence gets too loud. But either way, you need to know the silence didn't start with you. It started with something much deeper. That's why I always say, healing ain't just important, it's necessary. Because if you don't heal what broke you, you'll bleed all over the person who never cut you. And sometimes the one doing the ignoring, they're bleeding. They just don't know how to stop it yet. So instead of asking for help, they shut down. Instead of letting love in, they push it away. If you're on that side of the relationship, if you're the one feeling torn up inside, let me say this to you. Don't let your past rob you of your future. Don't let fear steal what could be the best chapter of your life. Don't hide from love because you're scared of being hurt again. You survived the pain before. You'll survive it again. But what if this time it ain't pain? What if this time it's peace? What if this time it's home? You'll never know if you keep shutting down. You'll never know if you keep disappearing every time it gets too real. Yeah, love exposes you. Yeah, it brings things to the surface. But that's how healing begins. That's how freedom starts. By facing what's inside and choosing to stop running. And if you're the one being ignored, keep your dignity. Don't chase silence. Don't beg for love. Don't shrink yourself to fit into someone's confusion. Love yourself enough to recognize when someone's inner battle ain't yours to fix. Sometimes the best thing you can do for both of you is to step back and let them face themselves. Love is beautiful, but it's messy. It's not always pretty. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it when it's real. Just remember, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And sometimes the silence you hear is the sound of someone still learning who they are. Let's bring this thing full circle, because this last part right here, this is where most folks get it twisted. When someone ignores you, when someone pulls away, the first thing most people do is blame themselves. What did I do wrong? Why ain't I enough? Why would they treat me this way if they love me? And you sit there overthinking, replaying every conversation, every text, every moment, trying to find the mistake you made. But what if I told you the silence, the distance, that cold shoulder, it's not a sign of disrespect, it's a cry for understanding. See, we live in a world where everybody wants to be loved, but not everybody knows how to handle being loved. Not everybody knows how to sit in the softness of real love and let it soak in without flinching. Love requires vulnerability. And vulnerability, that's a scary thing for someone who spent most of their life on defense. When someone loves you deeply, it reveals everything they've tried to hide. It stirs up things that don't want to be stirred. Insecurity, trauma, fear, shame, all of it bubbles. And some folks just don't have the tools to process that. So they shut down, They don't stop loving you. They just don't know how to love you while dealing with themselves. And listen, people express love differently. We expect love to look like the movies. Grand gestures, romantic speeches, somebody fighting through traffic just to stand outside your window with flowers. But in real life, love sometimes looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like space. Sometimes it looks like someone quietly battling demons you can't even see. That don't mean you accept mistreatment. That don't mean you let somebody walk all over your heart in the name of they're just going through something. What it means is, you understand that love isn't black and white. It's complex, it's layered, and most of all, it's human. See, the one who loves you a lot might ignore you a lot because they feel safer behind a wall than they do in your arms. It's not logical, it's emotional. It don't make sense to the outside world, but it makes perfect sense to someone who's never had safe love before. They're testing you without even knowing they're testing you. If I pull away, will you chase? If I go quiet, will you still care? If I'm difficult, will you still It's not right, but it's real. Some people are waiting to be proven wrong about love. They're waiting to be shown that love doesn't always leave, that it doesn't always hurt, that it doesn't always fade. But instead of asking for that reassurance, they act out of fear. They self-sabotage. They ignore you, not because they want to lose you, but because they're convinced they will eventually anyway. So they try to control the loss before it controls them. You gotta be careful not to take on someone else's healing as your responsibility. You can love someone with everything you've got and still not be able to fix them. You can be patient, kind, loyal, present, and they still won't be ready. And that ain't a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their wounds. And here's the hard part. Love requires time, right? Love wrong time. That's a heartache all its own. But don't lose your light trying to pull someone out of their darkness. Don't dim yourself to make someone else comfortable in their confusion. You deserve love that chooses you, not love that tests you. You deserve peace, not pattern. You deserve consistency, not confusion. Now, if you are the one doing the ignoring, if you're pulling away from someone who's showing up for you, take a minute to ask yourself why. What are you running from? What are you afraid? Because if love makes you uncomfortable, it might not be the love that's the problem. It might be the parts of you that still need healing. It might be the walls you've built so high that even the people who want to love you right can't reach you. And if that's the case, don't stay stuck behind those walls. Break them down, brick by brick, day by day. Open the door just a little and let someone in. Not just for them, for you. Because love, when it's real, can be the most healing thing in the world. But only if you let it. So let's stop pretending like ignoring someone is harmless. It ain't. Silence can be sharp. Distance can be damaging. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. But if you love somebody, show up. Even if it's messy. Even if it's scary. Even if it means admitting you don't know what you're doing. Show up anyway. Because love that hides itself too long might miss its moment. And to the ones who are being ignored, don't chase clarity from someone who won't even give you honesty. If they care, they'll communicate. If they love you, they'll come back whole, or at least trying to be. But you keep growing. You keep glowing. You keep showing up for you. Because no matter who walks away, you are still worthy of a love that stays. That's all I gotta say about that.